Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers. This is the show that goes beyond the data to explore the people, the stories, and the insights that drive real business success. My name is Dave Bookbinder, and I'm known as a business valuation expert and best-selling author. Thank you for joining us today. Got an interesting guest for you guys today. His name is Jim Schleckser. He is the founder and CEO of the CEO Project. He's also the author of a book called Great CEOs Are Lazy. We're definitely going to unpack that. And he's host of the CEO Project podcast. Jim, welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
That's a pleasure. Tell the audience the rest of your story that I didn't cover in the opening.
Oh, gosh. I'm tempted to start with the line from The Jerk, but
do what you feel, brother. There are no rules here.
Okay. Well, I engineer, MBA, ran a bunch of different companies, ultimately left corporate life, gosh, over 20 years ago at this point, and I started CEO advisory work. And that's really been my passion. I mean, I ended up through luck in the perfect place for me. I love what I do. I love the people I do it with. We help people grow their businesses. And it really, in speaking to literally thousands of CEOs, it derived this book, Great CEOs Are Lazy. Because what I found is I talked to a CEO and I could tell you in 5 minutes if they were a good CEO or a bad CEO or a good leader or a bad leader. And really it got down to their ability to control their time. And the good ones really were thoughtful about where and how they spent their time on the business in this case. But it could be if you ran, marketing or operations, like how you spend your time there, what's the most important thing, and how do you get rid of all the stuff that's less important. Bad leaders are busy, like are working 80 hours a week, killing themselves. Their wife doesn't like them. Their dog bites them when they come home. Their kids don't know their name. I mean, it's like horrible. And so it's some combination of like, let's help make you more effective at work, but let's help you get like a real life instead of just work consuming everything you do. So that's the genesis of the book. And it came from sort of those interviews of thousands of CEOs and a theoretical base of something called the theory of constraints, which was developed by an Israeli physicist, a guy named Eli Goldratt. And the basic idea is in any system you can name, any system, there is a point of constraint that controls the performance of the whole system. So the simple example is a garden hose. You got a garden hose trying to get water through it, yet there's a kink in the hose. Well, the kink controls the performance of the entire hose. And so your job is to find the kink and open it up. Well, the same thing's true in your business, or if you run a process inside a business, you've got an objective you're trying to achieve. And somewhere in that process, there is a kink in the hose that's preventing you from getting to the numbers or the performance or the KPIs that you'd like to achieve. And the job is find the kink, open it up. That's what leaders do. And it allows them to focus their time on the highest leverage stuff and not waste their time on all the baloney that packs our schedule.
Yeah, lots of good stuff there. And we're definitely going to unpack it because the first thing you mentioned was about managing time. And man, does that resonate. I think we all, and certainly me personally, need to be able to be prioritizing the important stuff. And it's so easy to get caught in the rabbit hole of millions of emails. But before we get into that specifically, I want to ask you, what does it mean to be a lazy CEO? And why is that a good thing?
Well, the book is designed to make you go, hey, wait a minute. That's
what I did.
Of course, right?
I get it. You're tongue in cheek with this. I totally get it, but let's play with it.
To be fair, I mean, the idea here is that working 80 hours a week is not the coin of the realm here. Like busyness is not the coin of the realm. What the coin of the realm is effectiveness. And if I can figure out how to be really, really effective in 40 or 50 hours a week, maybe even 60, because let's agree it's not a 40-hour-a-week job, that one certainly. It looks lazy because I'm not working 80, but I'm getting everything done, maybe even getting more done than somebody working 80 chasing rabbits all the time. And so that's the trick. Find the thing to focus on and get rid of all the other stuff in your calendar. That is the secret to being a lazy CEO. And like I said, they're not really lazy. They're actually really smart and hardworking people. They just manage their time really, really well.
Yeah. All right. We've got to go there then. Let's talk about managing time because I think everybody out here, whether they're a CEO or not, will benefit from learning how to manage their time better.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I'm going to first let you off the hook. People think like I got to be 100% productive all the time, blah, blah, blah. And that's where this busyness things comes out of. And I'm going to tell you, if you put 3 or 4 good solid hours in a day on the most important thing in front of you, you will be so far ahead of everybody else on the planet, you cannot imagine. So in talking to CEOs, what we found is less than 50% knew where that point of constraint was, that knew the most important thing for them to be working on. And then of the ones that knew where it was, less than 50% spent 30, 40% of their time at the point of constraint, actually fixing the thing that mattered the most. And it's weird. You go, so you told me that fixing your sales process is the most important thing, and you're not spending any time on it. Like, help me, help me with that. So I'm going to say, if you know it, you're in the top half. If you actually spend real time on it, you're in the top quarter. You're in the top quarter, 25% of all performers, just with those two moves. So that's the first thing. Figure out the most important thing. And it's either the highest economic impact or eliminating the highest risk thing in front of you. Those are both valid. But also, we teach people you need to do a not-do list. And everybody's got a to-do list. I've got one. You've got one. I love crossing things off it. But the trick is make a list of all the things in front of you that you think are important. Go about halfway up the list and draw a line. Everything below the line, either you defer into the future. I'm not going to spend any time on this. I'm just not, there will get no work on anything below the line. I'm going to not do, meaning I'm literally going to cross it off the list. And what's funny is I get this endorphin buzz when I cross something off my list. Even if I didn't actually do it, I get the same little juice, when I cross it off the list. And then the third is delegate. And this is particularly appropriate if you're a manager. Sometimes there's no one to delegate to, but if you have people working for you, take something that's below the line for you and hand it to somebody who works for you. Now, what's cool about that is it becomes a developmental opportunity for somebody who works for you. They go, ooh, boss just asked me to handle this project for him. This is super cool. He must believe in me. He must. And you're like, listen, the real answer is it wasn't important enough for me to spend time on it, but it is important enough for you to spend time on it. And so all of a sudden I've got half the things in front of me. We recommend do that every month or two. Before you know it, you'll be down to 4 or 5 things that really matter. And then you try to focus a big chunk of your time on those things. So it's not only what do I need to do, it's getting rid of the things I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talked about the endorphin hit when you scratch off something on the to-do list. I remember seeing a Simon Sinek talk where he actually mentioned that if he accomplished something that wasn't even on the list, he would write it on the list just so he could scratch it off the list.
Yeah, guilty as charged. Yeah, I completely align with that. He's not the only one doing that.
That little hit, I guess, of dopamine. I want to talk to you about delegating because, again, that's one of those universal things. I've interviewed and worked with probably thousands of CEOs at this point in my career. And so many times the recurring theme is that they feel like they've got to know everything, do everything, and be responsible and accountable for everything.
Yeah.
And letting go is one of the hardest things. So what's your advice based on your years of experience in helping folks understand that they can actually let go of the rope and push things down?
Yeah, I mean, it comes from, funny enough, a lack of self-confidence and arrogance at the same time, which is weird to have those two things in one bucket. But the lack of self-confidence is, if I let go of this, maybe they'll do better than me, or I won't know everything the way I should. But it turns out that's not our job as a CEO or as any leader. You're not supposed to know everything. It is an okay answer to say, I can bring you this far into the conversation. Then I need to get somebody who works for me, and she's the expert. What's wrong with that? And people don't want to do it. They want to look like all-knowing, all-powerful, hyper-intelligent beings, and we're just not. And so they're uncomfortable because that's the image they've got. Like, how do I live up to it? So I must know everything. And that leads to micromanagement, disempowering people that work for you, and ultimately not building organizational muscle to perform. And that is part of our job as leaders, is take the people around us and grow their capability. We had one CEO we worked with that said, companies don't grow, people do. And so if you invest in growing your people by delegating hard tasks and bringing things to them, they're going to get better, which means the organization is going to get better, which means the company's going to grow. Arrogance is the other side. And this is where we think we're the best one to do every job. Well, that is patently not true. I mean, I could give you a lot of things that I'm really bad at, and I know I'm bad at them. I should delegate those. I shouldn't be doing these things. It's a bad use of my time. But even more, just do the economics. Let's say that quality leader time is worth $1,000 an hour. I can come up with ideas and make improvements at a rate of $1,000 an hour. Well, why am I doing $100 an hour job if I can make 1,000 by doing the thing I'm really, really good at, and I dive down and I'm doing, accounting work that's $100 an hour? You're losing the company $900 an hour every hour you do that. And you really need to be thinking, my time is worth $1,000. Would I be willing to pay somebody? And here's the thing. If I'm worth $1,000 an hour and I could get somebody to do this job for $100 an hour, well, I should do it every time because I freed up $1,000 an hour for $100. And that's part of the thinking on delegation. I think the other thing that people forget is delegation is not digital. They say, well, I'm going to delegate it. Well, whoa. Delegation has like 5 shades of gray in it. And you've got to be comfortable that, and I'll give you the kind of the ladder of delegation. Lowest level is, hey, go check this out. Come back and tell me what you think. I'll make a decision about what we're going to do. That's like, at least I outsource the investigation. Then next level might be, go check this out. Come up with a plan. Tell me what you think you might want to do. I'll agree to the plan or not. Third level might be, go check this out, come up with a plan, just let me know what you're going to do. If I don't tell you no, go. And you might go all the way up to, go check this out, figure out what you're going to do it, just let me know what you did afterwards. Like, you don't even have to consult me, just inform me afterwards. Up to, take this, make it go away. And when we say the word delegation, we think we're either at level 5 or level 4. Like, either take it and I'll never hear what happened, or take it, go all the way to the finish line, and just let me know what you did. And that scares the heck out of us. But I think you need to think about the competency of the person. A super competent person, I should be able to go up that list pretty quick. A low competency person, meaning younger, maybe lower on the list until they grow into it. A super duper risky decision, changing the company of the name of the company, for example. I go, I'm not going to delegate that one very far, right? But what sandwiches are we going to have for the company picnic? I don't need to be in, just make it go away. Like, I could go all the way to 5 and it's fine. So I think when you say delegation, you got to think about how delegated is the task. And that's important as well.
Yeah. And underpinning all that, the term I like to use is what's your highest and best use? Like you said, is your time best used for that $100 an hour task, or really is it better off for somebody else? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that struck with me for a long point, at this point, early in my career, I worked for a guy who I thought was an arrogant jerk. Frankly, he got us in the room and he told us for him to do what he did at his level, he needed us to do what we do at our level. And several years later, when I became in more of a leadership role and I started to see what that really meant and what that really felt like, I understood he may have delivered it in a jerky sort of way, but was he spot on?
Yeah. Great message, just bad way to deliver it, right?
Well, yeah, that was his way. But I actually called him years later and told him I finally got it. Thought you were a jerk when you said it, but I've come to understand how brilliant that concept was. So when we talk about freeing up time for more higher, better use activities, one of those things is strategy development.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how leaders can better master the strategy aspect of their day-to-day.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, people are born with a gift of strategy or not. I think you can get a little better over time, but it's like when I was a marathoner, I'm not very tall, and I could only get so far. And then the guys with 6'2" with legs up to my eyeballs, are always going to outrun me. I just genetically can't beat them. Same thing's true in strategy. There are people who are just really gifted at it. And the thing to look for, I'm actually sort of working on another book, and I've got this idea that the strategy team and the executive team are different teams. The executive team runs the business, got that. But the strategy team may or may not include all those people, because what makes somebody a good strategist is somebody who is a systems thinker. So they see how the parts interrelate. They know if they pull on this lever, something's going to move way over here. They understand the marketplace. And so I think a really accurate understanding of the market is the first thing you need for a good strategy, because a lot of times we think we know things, but we're just guessing, or we have company, stories we tell ourselves, and it's not real. Like, all our competitors are worse than we are. They're still in business. That's probably not true. They got something. Go figure out what it is. So a really accurate map and understanding of the market and what people are offering and your competitors and why they do what they do, that's your first move. And then the question is, how do you, understanding the system and the assets you have inside your business, people, materials, capital, so forth, what are the best moves you can make to optimize yourself? Now, when we think about strategy, we think about, and this was in the book, we talk about a mafia offer, which is, how do I build an offer that my customers would be crazy to say no to me? It's got to be that good. I'll give you an example. And I talk to CEOs all the time. They go, well, I'm like, how's your product versus everybody else's? Well, we're like 2% better, and we care 5% more than everybody else. I'm like, how's your growth? They go, not so good. I'm like, there's the reason, right? 2% is not enough to move the needle. It's got to be twice as good or half the price. That's what moves the needle. Twice as good or half the price. You go, what if I'm 40% better? Hey, that's better than 20, but it's not as good as 50. I'll give you an example of somebody who has a mafia offer. It's a software company, software services company we work with, and they sell software that helps nonprofits raise more money from high net worth donors, basically helps analyze it. Are they ready to give? Are they engaged with your brand? Stuff like that. And he's made an offer. Stuff costs like $60,000 to buy the software. It's not incredibly expensive, but for nonprofits, it's a lot of money. He goes, here's the deal. If you don't raise 10 times the cost of the software in the first year, it's free. Right? As a business guy, you go, well, I'd be crazy to say no to that, wouldn't I?
Absolutely.
That's why it's a mafia offer. Yeah. So that's the kind of offer and he, by the way, he's never paid off on it because he knows the numbers like 20 times. So he's never had to pay for it, but it sounds really compelling when you hear it. In fact, he was going to put 20. I'm like, you can't put 20. Nobody will believe you. It's got to back it down a few notches and give yourself some buffer. So if you can come up with an offer like that deals with the risk factor that your customer is seeing, like, why is it risky to do business with these people? And you completely take it off the table with your offer, you're going to win a lot more business. And that's part of strategy, is just winning in the marketplace.
Yeah, great example. I mean, have to chew on that one this afternoon for sure.
How can I get a 10x offer, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. We have to maybe talk offline here. One of the challenges that I see day to day, and I hear other folks talk about, is the family dynamic.
Yeah.
So many unique challenges, starting with family members with executive titles that really aren't involved in the day to day and what that does to morale and so forth. What are some of the challenges that you see in the family dynamics area?
Yeah, and I think there's a continuum of family businesses. There are family businesses run for the benefit of the family that are run like professional companies, whether there are family members in or not. And those, I think, tend to be pretty successful. As you move towards more family-oriented, family-involved, the decisions get less rational. And that is a problem in terms of optimizing your outcome. Now, their answer may be, that's not our objective. Our objective is to make sure everybody has jobs and they're all comfortable and they're all doing okay. We're not looking to dominate the universe here. And so as a more entrepreneurial business person, I go, well, that doesn't make any sense, but it does for them, right? So I wrote an article that said, if you think the other side's crazy, you're wrong. You just don't understand them. And so I think that's the trick in a family business. You just understand their objectives. I'll give you one example. We dealt with one. It's like generation 3 was running the business and generation 4 was in the business doing various jobs. And the guy I was talking to was a CEO, G3. And I'm like, well, how do you deal with, and he had a couple other G3s in the business, including one that was running the loading dock, right? I go, well, how do you deal with compensation in this? You're all G3, but yet you're doing very, very different jobs. He goes, oh, well, if we're at the same generation, we make the same money. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You're the CEO of the company. You make all the key decisions. You lie awake at night when something's not going right. You got advanced degrees. You're super smart. And your cousin or whatever is working on the loading dock. He could have lit up a doobie on his way to work that morning and he'd be just fine. And he makes the same money you do. He goes, that's how we make it work. And so an outsider will go, well, that's irrational. But for them, they said, look, the deal is it's a long-term business. We're keeping everybody employed. If they want to work here, they can. Everybody makes money on it. We're happy. Nothing wrong with that. And so where the real struggle, I think, comes if you're a professional leader that comes into a family business and you have, let's say, aspirations of advancement and so forth, it's very easy to get blocked by a family member. And you either A, have to be okay with that, or B, find another environment to operate in. So that's where it gets really, I think, tough for outsiders to come into that environment. I mean, if you've got the blood or you're married to the blood or whatever, you're probably good. If you're not, you're capped at some level where you're going to go in that business, most likely.
Yeah, because the equity is going to stay with the family in all likelihood.
Now, I have seen really enlightened families that go, hey, we're just going to own it. We're going to hire a professional manager because they're probably better than we are. And we'll get involved at board meetings, but fundamentally he or she runs the business. And those can be very effective. They don't really look like family businesses, but the cash does flow to the family. And so, but the leader can make hyper rational, professional executive type decisions without interference generally. So there's a continuum, I think.
Yeah, and so often that's critically needed because so many times family members are in the wrong seat just because they're a family member.
I remember real quick, I went to Florence years ago and I got a book about the Medicis. So the Medicis were the bankers to the papacy. And they had all the different leaders of the Medici family for like 15 generations, right? And you had Enrico, and he had this thick chapter. He sponsored Michelangelo, and his nephew became the Pope, and he built half of Florence. And then you get, Skippy, really thin chapter. And like he was there for a couple of years, and then they moved to the next guy. And that happens in families. They're not all amazing. It's just the way it is. So
yeah, which is a great segue for the next piece I want to talk to you about in the family business continuum, and that's succession planning.
Yeah.
Another issue that I see day to day in my activities in the valuation space. And so many times it's not clear cut where there's the next gen who's ready, willing, and able to actually take over.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that issue.
Yeah. So we've seen best practice. If you're a dad or a mom running a company and you'd like to see your kids, your grandkids come into it, move one is, A, get them a great education, obviously, but B, have them go work somewhere else for a while. Like you can't bring them into the echo chamber that's been there for 3 generations and expect them to have a lot of new ideas. They need to go work for some other people for a while, maybe 2 different jobs, come back into the business at, 30 or something like that, and then move them in. Now, then they also have to earn their stripes. I mean, I know they got the last name, but they actually have to do good work in order to build the credibility, because part of leadership is the social authority you have, that you've done a good job and people recognize you as a leader. You do that by accomplishing things. So the good ones I've seen is they'll hand a new initiative to one of the younger people, family members that they're trying to develop. This would work, by the way, if they're not family. It's the same strategy. And you go, okay, you're going to open up this new line of business for us. And if they crush it, hopefully they do, they've now built credibility to move to the next level, whether they've got the right last name or not. And so putting younger people into positions where they can establish authority through performance is really valuable, because otherwise you're going to pop them into the VP level job and they're not going to have any authority or knowledge they need to really, or the social network inside the organization to do what they have to do to be highly successful. So I say, make them run through the chairs. I know they got the last name and you're going to support them, but they need to also perform. It can't be an entitlement model, because if they get to the top, they're just not going to do well. The other side, though, is sometimes, to your point, the kids don't want to get involved in the business, or the grandkids don't want to get in the business. What are we going to do? And that precipitates a decision, I think. One decision would be, if we think the next generation wants to come in, we bring in a leader, a hired gun, a professional executive who knows they're there for 5 or 10 years. Their job is to train the next generation to take over, and then they get out of town and they let the next gen take over. I've seen that work really successfully for people that are enlightened and they get it. The other option would be just say, okay, the family doesn't run the business anymore. We own it. We're just going to have professionals run the business, and that's okay. And if somebody wants to work in it, awesome, but they're like anybody else at this point, except they'll own shares. And then the third is to sell it. I know like Sherwin-Williams years ago went through this decision as a family, and they couldn't resolve, and they ended up selling the business. And that's not the worst answer. I mean, I know there's ego involvement in owning a business, and there's a lot of family lore involved in it, but I could either own the business or have $250 million in the bank that my grandkids will never have to worry about money, and probably their kids won't either. So that's not the worst thing in the universe.
Yeah, that doesn't suck for sure.
No, no.
And for those who are listening and not watching, I just want everybody to know that when you were talking about the kids working somewhere else before joining your business, I was nodding in
Mm.
agreement. That's something I share all the time. I think that's just sage advice. Jim, we're getting close to the conclusion of the program, and if you have a few minutes, I'm certainly willing to go over. But I have to talk about another book that you've written, and I'm not sure where this is going to go, but for the benefit of the audience, the book I'm referring to is called Professional Drinking: A Spirited Guide to Wine, Cocktails, and Confident Business Entertaining.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that. What inspired you to write it, and what does someone learn from reading it?
I got into this group of guys that were all wine people, and I was really marveled at how much they knew about wine, and I just felt like, ugh, I just don't know anything. I enjoy being with them and hanging out and drinking nice wine, but I didn't know anything. And I said, I need a goal because I need goals in order to achieve almost anything in my life. So I decided to become a certified sommelier, which is a level 2 sommelier. There are 4 levels. You may have seen the movie Somm on Netflix about master sommeliers. They're way, way beyond me. But, I did the things they do at a lower level, tasting wine, serving wine, and having a deep theoretical knowledge. So I did that over a couple of years as like a hobby, activity. And then I said, well, that was fun. And I can never become advanced because I'd have to work in a restaurant, which I'm not going to do. I like going to them. I don't like working in them. I did that in college. I said, what am I going to do with this? I go, well, I've been entertaining high-level people, CEOs and so forth for decades. And it's weird how you take a master of the universe, you hand them the wine list, and he or she, their hands start to shake and they get the flop sweat. They don't know what to do in that environment and be elegant about it, unlike everything else in their life. I said, well, I'm going to write a book about how to do that, how to be appropriate and elegant and not step on your toes when you're trying to entertain around, spirits, which we do, regularly. And so that's the nature of the book. It's a fairly basic book. It's not wine, here, this region and that grape. And it's, what do you do in a restaurant with a sommelier? I'll give you an example of one of the tricks that I shared in there, and use this at home, kids. This is a great trick. When you get handed the wine list and you're hosting and you don't know what you want to get because you don't know wine, but you do know how much you want to spend. Like, everybody kind of knows what they want to spend. And I'll give you the rule of thumb on what you should spend on a bottle of wine. It's about 2 to 3 times the entree price. So if I'm in a spaghetti restaurant and it's $25 plates of spaghetti, I might spend $50 on a bottle of wine. I could go to a 75, but 50 to 75, you're in the nice spot for it. But if I'm in a steak place with $70 steaks, I'm going to be spending $150, $200 on that steak. And if you go, well, that's a lot. I'm like, well, the steak's $70. I mean, I don't know what you think the wine's going to be, right? So 2 to 3 times. But if you don't know, that's a guideline. So you want to spend $100 on the bottle of wine. I'm making that up. You open the bottle of wine. You bring the sommelier, or the general manager. Sometimes they don't have a sommelier. You open the list up. You run your finger down the prices. And you go, I'd like something from this region. Now, everybody around the table thinks you're pointing to Bordeaux or Burgundy or Italy or wherever. No. You're pointing to the price. Every sommelier worth their salt knows, this lady or gentleman wants to spend $100 on a bottle of wine. They go, what's everybody having for dinner? They're having the veal, the steak, the whatever. Fine, let me get something from that region I think you're really going to enjoy. And off they go. And frankly, sommeliers love you to put their trust in them to find an amazing bottle of wine at a good price point. They really are good at it. They want to serve. This is their sweet spot. They're all wine geeks. So you're giving them a chance to show their stuff. So that's a great technique. And I've got CEOs I've talked to, they go, best trick I've ever learned in my life. I use it all the time. So you don't need to know anything about wine, but yet you look reasonably elegant. So there's that's the kind of trick and techniques that are in the book.
That is brilliant. Love that.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about cocktails. I am admittedly not a wine expert. So if I'm in a situation like that, I'm absolutely going to use your tip here. But talk to us a little bit about, I'm going to say, is there judgment in terms of how you're perceived based upon what you're drinking or not?
A little bit, yes. And actually, I write about that in one of the chapters on cocktails. Like, what does your cocktail say about you, right? And, if you pop a martini, people go, okay, he drinks or she drinks. I'll give you an example. Ideally, you find a drink that's on brand for you. And maybe more, if you're more serious, a little more in that direction, you might go for a bourbon or a Manhattan or something like that. I'll give you an example. There's a woman I work with, Neen James, fabulous woman, bubbly Australian, fire plug, and just like energy out her ears. She drinks champagne as her cocktail. And it is the perfect, like, she's bubbly and the drink is bubbly and it all works. It's perfectly on brand for her. So I think sometimes there's a little bit of judgment. Like if you go to a serious meeting and you say, I want a Mai Tai, a fruity drink, people will go, yeah, exactly. That's the reaction. Right. Really? Really? For a normal business dinner, there's, a variety of classic cocktails that are just fine. But if you start to go to the fruity tooty stuff, for example, but I had a client and he was kind of like that. He was fun and always up for a party, and he ordered margaritas everywhere he went. And that was his drink, so, first time he ordered, I did what you're like, what, really? And yet, as I got to know Dave, it was perfectly on brand for him. That was how he rolled. So,
yeah, well, my kids would tell you that my on-brand drink is spot on because I'm more of an old-fashioned guy. So
there you go. Perfect.
That's where I lean on that sort of thing. But I want to just give a shout out to the folks who are listening who don't drink at all. Maybe they're sober, they're in recovery.
Yep.
Or frankly, sometimes I'm at networking events and booze is flowing, and I will just get a club soda with lime. So I've got a drink in my hand, but I'm not going to imbibe.
Yep. My trick there, it's in the book. I do bourbon and ginger ale, and I'll have one, and then I'll just get ginger ale. So to your point, I've got a drink. I look like I'm hanging out with everybody, but I'm not drinking anymore. I had one drink. That's all I really wanted to have that evening. And I think there's no judgment on not drinking anymore.
Right.
Between religious choice. I remember I had a client for a long time. I've had multiple clients that are Mormon and they don't drink, and like, fine. He drank water or something else that was appropriate for him, and no judgment whatsoever. That was a choice, and it was totally cool. But on the other side, he didn't judge the people that chose to imbibe, right? So you do you, I'll do me, and it's all good. So I think only in a rare case do people go, well, you really shouldn't imbibe. I'm like, well, that's your choice.
Yeah. What advice do you have for the younger professionals? You know where I'm going with this. They go to company-sponsored events, whether it's Christmas parties or team building things. Free booze.
I know. Yeah.
It doesn't usually end well.
It's literally the first chapter in the book, which is at a business event, never, ever, 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 ever get drunk. You can't. You just cannot do it. I don't care what your level is. I don't care if you're with customers. Don't get drunk. So have two, maybe have a third. Go up to your hotel room. If you need to pour a bottle of wine down your throat, that's your call. But at the party, keep a lid on it. Do not get inebriated. That is a mistake on every level. To your point, it never ends well. I also advocate leaving a bit early. So if the party's going to 11, get out of there at 9:30 or 10 or whatever. Just do not. Nothing ever good happens at the end of a party. So get out of there. So you're there for a reason. You're not there to have a party. You're there to have business connect and build relationships and get home without doing any damage. So do not get drunk. Do not.
Yeah, that's a career limiting move. I've seen the horrors firsthand. I remember some time ago at an offsite having to actually literally drag one of our new hires back to their hotel room because they were smashed.
Ugh, yeah, that's such a bad look. That's a bad conversation with HR the Monday morning.
Yeah, you're not kidding. No, not kidding. Man, I can continue talking to you for another half hour here, but I'm going to have to hit the brakes on this because I've already kept you long enough.
No problem.
But before I let you go, Jim, tell the audience where they can find you, how they can learn more about you, where they can get your books.
Yeah, no problem. So Jim Schleckser, LinkedIn, I'm super visible, or our website, theceoproject.com. And if you want the book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, on Amazon, Kindle. If you want to listen to audio, you get to hear my dulcet tones, listen to you and put you to sleep. And the same with professional drinking. That's available on Amazon.
And what about the podcast? I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to do that.
Yeah, so the CEO Project podcast, available on whatever platform you choose to watch or look, everything from YouTube to Spotify to Apple to you name it. So the CEO Project podcast.
Awesome. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. Learned a lot and had fun doing it.
Me too.
All righty. And thank you out there for tuning into Behind the Numbers. Really appreciate your support. We are coming close to a milestone episode, more on that in the coming weeks, but it's been quite a journey and can't do it without your support. So thank you so much. Until next time, again, my name is Dave Bookbinder, reminding you that the numbers tell the story, but the people bring it to life. Take care, everybody.